Okay, good morning. So we're up to Shin Mem Seif Hey, covering some miscellaneous things. Largely today we'll do some issues of Tofer, of Makar Patish. Are you allowed to inflate a balloon and a ball on Shabbos? These sort of questions. So let's go. Seif Hey. Muta Lirshaim B'Sipor. You're allowed to make an indentation with your nail ala sefer in a sefer. Like you want to make some sort of mark because it's not dovish miskayim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, some people refrain from doing this. He brings a machlekes achronim whether you're allowed to or not. Lirsham b'tziporin sifkot nechaftala v'davka reshima ke'en kav ba'alma. You're making like a little mark on the page. Say, for example, you see there's a spelling mistake or something, and you want to make a note of it. So you make a little mark with your finger, with your nail on the page. It's not really considered writing, and therefore it's not a problem. But to make like a letter with your nail, to write a letter aleph or base or something, also that would not be allowed. Even if it's one letter. Because it's not considered Dova HaMiskayim. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chofhei, V'davka b'klaf ha'kosha. We're talking specifically about a parchment. To bizmanan ha'yukosin ala klaf, because that's how they did things in those days. Aval hanai ala naya also, but to make a little indentation in a piece of paper, that is not allowed to miskayim, because that will last for a long time, and it's Dova Miskayim, and that's the whole issue. V'davka b'tziporin, and the whole problem is with your nail. But if you do it with, the whole heta in this sif is if you use your nail. But if you use an instrument which is going to make a deeper impression, even on klaf eitz, which the tziporim would be allowed, if it's done with a kli, then it would not be allowed. The min kehetiv or miskayim, because otherwise it will last longer. So just to summarize, if you're reading a sefer and you want to just make a note of something that you remember after Shabbos, and you want to make a little indentation with your nail, there are those who are matir to do it on klaf. Imagine you've got like a sefer Torah that you want to do something on Megillah or something like that. But on a piece of paper where it's going to be miskayim, you're not allowed to do it, and certainly you're not allowed to do it with a kli, even on klaf, because that will be miskayim. Okay, see if you couldn't do this. That would seem to be just turning over the corner of the page. Yeah. That's not really ksiva. The problem here is that it's not really, because I think for that sort of thing, and like post-it notes and things like that. Post-it notes generally, I'm a big post-it note fan, as you can see. But anything which is you're going to remove it, post-it notes. So if you're going to remove it and it's not going to be there forever, or it's certainly within 24 hours, that would be okay. So, for example, if you're using it, you're learning your daf yomi, let's say, and you want to just do chazar, and you're going to keep moving it, and the next day you're going to be moving it further place. So that's not a problem, because you know that the post-it note is going to be, and also it shouldn't be the first time you haven't taken it off from the pack. But if you've previously used it and you're moving again, if it's that plus it's within 24 hours, then poskim generally allow it. Okay, Vov, Sif Vov, Chut Shel Tfira. You've got a thread, sheniftach, which became sort of loose. Also, lemoscha, you're not allowed to tighten it, mishum tofer, because that is a problem of tofer. So a thread which became loose, and you wanted to pull it, you've got a shaila there of tofer. Says the Mishnah Berurah, lemoscha, to tighten it, hainu, shenispardu shtei chatichas habeged zumizu. So 2 parts of the beged became separated, b'miktas, v'chutei hatfirish nimshachin, and the threads have become loose. Rotz limtech reish hachut kadei lahadik ulechaber, and you want to pull it to tighten it, you're not allowed to do that. Mishum tofer. V'oisa ken chayiv chatzas, and if you do it, it's a shalav v'deraisa. It's one of the 39 melachas. V'hu she'osa hakesher lebesoif afilu ein shel kayama. And that is, you've done it in a permanent fashion. That means you've made a little knot at the end, even if it's not a kesher shel kayama, because then you're over the issa of tofer, because it's of a permanent nature. Aval below kesher klal parts of it. If you don't do any sort of tying, then it's not a problem. It's only also midrabanan. But if you stitch 3 stitches and then you tighten it, then you're chayiv af below kesher, even without a kesher, because 3 is considered a ma'aseh tefira, even below kesher. Now the Chaim says he's going to give us a little bit of background to all of this. V'agav nevai k'tas din tofer. Let me just give you a few lines just explaining the halachas of tofer. Excuse me. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Hatoifa shtei tefiras. If someone stitches 2 stitches, chayiv, then it's going to be chayiv min haTorah for tefira on Shabbos. V'hu shekosher rosh hachut mikan umikan kadei shelo tishmot. But that is so long as each end is secured, and that way it's more of a permanent thing. V'hu shekosher rosh hachut mikan umikan kadei shelo tishmot. V'afilu lo hoya shel kayoma, even if it's not shel kayoma. V'im hoya shel kayoma, then chayiv gamishum kosher. Then you've also got a problem of kosher. All of this is regarding the chiyuv min haTorah. But regarding the drabanan, then this would be a problem even if you don't make any kesher. Those people who sort of connect 2 parts of the beged with 2 tchifos, with 2 stitchings, lav shape avdi, that is not good what they're doing, because that is over nisa drabanan at least of tofer. V'imasa shalosh tefiras chayiv af b'li kesher. Then they're going to be chayiv. It's going to be nisa Torah, even if they don't do a kesher. Sharim miskayim is tefira, because with 3 stitches, Chazal understood that it will be a dova miskayim. Okay, Sif Zayin. Why shoes? So shoelaces. There you've got a problem of tikkun mana. So reinserting a shoelace would be okay, but putting a shoelace in for the first time is caught by tikkun mana because you're completing the shoe. Yeah. Okay, Zayin. Oisam shemahadkim habegodim soviv zrosehem. I don't remember this. I remember as a kid growing up, you saw people do it. You don't really see it nowadays. You have people, they used to wear, if they had long sleeves, they would wear these sort of armbands. I don't know what they're called. Sleeve holders, okay. So it's not quite this, but this is a bit what it's similar to. Says the Mechaber, Oisem shemahadkin habegodim soviv zrosehem. They fasten their sleeves around their arms, alidei hachut shemoischin osei, with some sort of band, or mishadik, and that tightens it. Also, lemosre and emkenu anakovim rechovim ktsas. You're not allowed to fasten it, to tighten it, unless the nakovim were somewhat, the openings are a little bit broad, a little bit wide, ktsas, or mesukonim betfira beigel, and they're fixed up with the stitching in a circular fashion. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah, Chavches, Oisen shemahadzkin. They would put some sort of thread in the sleeve, sha'al zroya, which is on your arm, that you wanted to tighten it. They would pull the thread, and that would tighten the sleeve, and it would be more secure around your arm. So we said you can't do that on Shabbos unless the opening is a bit broad. Because if it's a bit broad, the opening, it's a bit loose, then it's not really as kin to tofer. But if you put it tight and it's going to be very tight on your arm, then you've got a problem. Because if it's loose, then it's okay to have a command, the machnis krosim belulois. It's as if you put hooks in the holes and in the buttonholes, because that's just the way you're opening and closing the beged. Or you want to loosen it, when you want to take it off. If it's not very tight, but you're going to leave it there forever like that, and you're going to undo it when it's tight, also b'Shabbos, then it'll be a problem. So any loose type of fastening is okay, and if it's a broad opening, it's also okay. But if you're going to leave it there for a longer time and it's very tight, then you're going to have problems. But tefira, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot and Lamed, Soviv Hanekev, with some sort of stitching around the opening. Even if the thread is in some sort of opening, that stays there, that you can insert it through these holes. Shari, that would be okay. That's just part of the way in which the beged is fashioned, and therefore that wouldn't be a problem. Okay, ches. Moichin shenoflu min hakeses. So in the good old days, you have proper feathers in your pillow. So moichin shenoflu min hakeses mutalach zero. If they fall out, you're allowed to reinsert them. Aval also litna betchila bakeses, but you can't put them initially there on Shabbos. Why not? So says Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot and Lamed Aleph, Moichin, Kol Orach kari Moichin. Anything which is soft is called Moichin. Could go in semer gef, and it doesn't have to be feathers, but it could be cotton wool or griras begodim or some sort of material. beluyim, which are worn material, v'chiyah gavna, shvuadin noitzes, and indeed feathers. Mutar lachzirim, you're allowed to reinsert them into the pillow, lo'isa keses, into that pillow, to kiven de kva hoyasham, ein bozeh mishum tikkun mana. You're just reinserting what was previously there. Ach shizoy shelo yitfa. Just be careful not to stitch up the ends of the pillow. But to put it in for the first time, says Mishnah Lamed Gimel, betchila tahashta ovid leimona. Now you're doing you're making it into a kli. It's now called a pillow. Yesh bezeh chiyuv deraisa, and tikkun mana is going to be one of the 30s, the last of the 39 melachas, and you've got a problem. So just to summarize, what have we said? If you've got the feathers or the contents of the pillow, to reinsert it if it falls out, that's not a problem. But to put it in for the first time is a problem of tikkun mana. Now on the back of this, you've got the question of inflating a bull on Shabbos. It's the same sort of shaila. So he says here in footnote 73, the nafech galgal, a kadur gumi, like to inflate a rubber bull, kosav agorim shlem zaun arbach, she'im kvar nifchok oisapamachas. If it was blown up once before, and you're just sort of filling it up again, or blowing it up a bit further, giving it a bit more puff, and making it a bit firmer, mutar lachzav v'nafchei. And he explains, true, it's new air that's going in each time. It's like this case where you're reinserting the contents back into it. However, others are a bit more strict about it. He brings out the poskim there. But in Simcha Bunim Kohen, at the back here, he says, he talks about two aspects. Number one, he talks about inflating a bull, and then he talks about inflating balloons. So this, I'll just read you what Simcha Bunim Kohen says. This is in the Shabbos Home, volume 2, page 525. Inflating a bull, in essence, constitutes the creation of a kli, since one thereby fashions the bull into a proper, usable shape. It is therefore prohibited to inflate rubber or hard plastic bulls for the first time on Shabbos. Re-inflating a bull that was once inflated before Shabbos is permitted. So that's quite useful to know in terms of kids and toys and Shabbos and things like that. Now what about a balloon? So a balloon may not be inflated for the first time on Shabbos, and moreover, even if it previously was inflated, it may not be re-inflated when the common practice is to tie a knot to hold it in the air. So because you've got a problem. And he quotes the Machzeliah, he quotes Reb Falk. So inflating balloons is this, if it was doing it for the first time, you've got a problem. So to have a tochne, to have a program on Shabbos afternoon with the kids club or something, to have balloons and they just blow it up for the first time, you've got a problem. To re-inflate a balloon that used to have air in it, it's technically okay, but if it's the common practice to tie it, which it presumably is, then you've got that problem. And so too bulls, if you're going to re-inflate a bull, that would, if you're going to put more air in to pump it up and more, that would be okay. But to do it for the first time, you've got a problem. And there's a pump, why? Because that could be a klishim lachtanisa. Blow it. A bull, I see, because your pump is a klishim lachtanisa. Not sure if it is actually. Why is it klishim lachtanisa? Because if it's got a usage over here, not sure. Is the pump itself muksa? Interesting. Not sure.
But with the balloon,
yeah,
you only a single knot.
Yeah, still, but that's just the way of doing it. And either way, it could be a derabanan because you're going to leave it like that for a long time. When it comes to kosher, you're right. Even though it's a single knot, but that's you try and tying that. What's that? It's very secure. The Doha Miskayim, and even Drabonon, it was certainly but Drabonon, maybe not Raisa, but maybe even a Raisa. Okay, let's carry on. Tess. Also, lekabitz melach. You're not allowed to gather salt. Misrafos hamelach, from salt deposits. Shedoim lema'amer, because that's very similar to ma'amer, gathering things together. V'chein also lekabitz kol dover mimokum gidulei. And so too, you can't gather together things from their place of growth. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Misrafos hamelach sheyesh makomos shemamshich lesoichen mayim min hayam. There are sort of deposits where you sort of make reservoirs sort of flowing from the sea. V'hachama sorafton, and the sun burns it. Ve'henasin melach, and that's how you create salt deposits. And you can't gather salt from there. Why? Because it's similar to ma'amer. It says in Mishnah Lamentei, Shedoima de meleches ma'amer. What is ma'amer? One of the 39 melachas is le'asoif hashibolin, to gather the sheaves for gamu ke'ein zeh. And this is a bit similar because you're gathering the salt from its natural place of production. But davka b'makom ha'misrofos, and davka is a problem from the salt deposits. She'sham ha'makom gidulei shel ha'melach, because that is the place where it grows or is developed, produced. Dumya de shibolin de shibasada, which is similar to sheaves in the field. Aval im nispazer b'makom acher, but if it's spread out in a different place, mutar lekapsun l'makom echod, then you're allowed to gather it. Now l'ma'amer, it's similar to ma'amer. Says the Mishnah Lamed Vav, v'lokach also midrabanan. Aval imur gufa leka, it's not proper imur. De'ein imur el b'gedulei karka. That's one of the rules of ma'amer. It only applies to gedulei karka. So if I know a bag of chocolate falls on the floor, or sweets or something, and you gather them together, that's not ma'amer. Ma'amer is only if it's gedulei karka. Kol davar, because as he says, there's kol davar m'koyim gedulei, that is also lekabitz kol davar m'mokim gedulei. It says in Mishnah Lamed Zayin, hainu peiros v'yirakas v'eitzim. So it refers to these sort of things: fruit, vegetables, wood, asovim, grass, v'chol davar hagodol min hakarka. So gathering any of these things, we're not talking about tlisha. It's already separated. It's already detached. But gathering those things is a problem. And there's a chiyuv in that. That means it's an issa deraisa b'mokim gedulan. That is exactly what ma'amer is. He tells me that it's lashon of osa, which is of course is drabanan. To teach us that even shaloi b'mokim gedulan, it's prohibited. For example, fruit. Full, you know, the fruit bowl spills in the house, and you've got a whole lot of oranges and apples on the floor. That could be an Issa Drabonan to gather them all in. But if it's in the house, sorry, I read it wrong. If fruit falls in the house, which is not b'makom gedulon, then I feel suranami leka k'shemekabtzin yachad. V'ayin le'el siman shin lamatei sifhei. V'shomri ganis, and therefore people who have got gardens or pradesim and orchards, even fruit which fall before Shabbos, you've got to be careful not to gather them on Shabbos even a little bit in your garden if these things fall. Because it could be an Issa Chiyav Chatas. The shear imur who shear cotton moed, because the shear of imur is actually very small. Or kamoi shekosav harambam. It's a small amount. Even the shear of gregaris, you're gathering together that small amount. For a behemoth, it's even it says the mouth, how much can go in the mouth of a goat. Okay, let's just do yud quickly. If you're gathering, you're making a fig cake. Mimena igel. So you gather the figs together and you squash them into a cake, like the Gemara often talks about. Or you string the fruit together. So if you thread the fruits, like dried apricots, and you put them on a thread for whatever reason, or you push together the figs, that is a problem. On Shabbos, that's a tolda of ma'amer, of gathering together fruits, and that's not allowed on Shabbos. Okay, he says in Mishnah Lamed Ches, how is that toldas ma'amer? Shedarken shloisa peres lechabrim b'ofen zeh, because that's quite common how you sort of pull together these fruits. V'ayim v'minishmas odem shemetzaded da'af k'she'oisa came b'bayis chayiv mishum ma'amer to b'ofen kazeh also la'asos gam b'bayis k'basod v'chein kosav b'sefer ma'aser rekech ayin sham. Okay, let's just Yudalef is at the end of this little sugya. Yudalef, afal pisha noistim shumshmim ve'egoizim nidvash lo yechabsim biyoda. You've got to be careful not to gather sesame seeds and nuts, all these sort of things together. Also, it could be caught by ma'amer. Says the Mishnah Berurah, lo yechabsim biyoda rotzolema shemahadik biyoda hegoizim alidezeh mafrit hadvash mevachutz. You're squashing them together to make them into one entity. To have a beira, because then you're squeezing out the honey and you're gathering together the dried fruits. Because that's the shaila of beira. Okay, good. We'll leave it there.